Rek'Sai TP behind. Yeah,
TP.
go now. I don't want to TP, okay? Let's get out.
Let him die. We win. Yeah.
Look at TP. I'm not TPing, okay?
Yeah, it's all good, we win.
Can for Zion. Look, Zion. Okay, Zion. Come on. Yeah. Guys, Zion. Renekton. I'm going on Talia too. Renekton, look, Talia is like, good. After Talia, Nash, yeah.
And welcome back to the LEC for this elimination series again between Team Heretics and SK Gaming. Team Heretics comes back and we're going to see a third game here, which, what do we think of this series so far? It's been messy all across the board and I feel like every good thing we saw from SK in game 1 was gone in game 2.
I mean, I feel like what happened was SK gained some confidence and they decided, you know what, guys, we're not just going to play front to back like we have the past 4 games. We are actually going to draft something proactive where we can play through the ultimates. We have Talia Renekton combo. We have a bunch of single target with the Rakan. But it didn't go well, right? So I have a suspicion, GB and Laure, that we might be in for another...
I hate it. I hate that it's going to go where it's about to go because we have this situation where it's like, here's hyperscaling on one side, here's hyperscaling on both sides, and then the first game that favored SK, and as you said, they get bold, they want to do something, they want to be proactive, and in some regards, it's actually working when they're being proactive too. But here's the thing, they drop the ball in mid-game, so here's what's going to happen. Instead of thinking, you know what, being proactive is good, we should keep doing it, we're going to be like, nope. It is uncertain, it is unsafe, we can't risk it in an elimination game. We're going to go back to scaling, and we're going to have a snoozer. And I hate that it goes like this, because I think they had tools from the way that they had the early game in the beginning to be more proactive into the mid game. And proactive is really becoming the word of the day. It's a buzzword already, but it's also just because we want to see more of it. And I'm afraid we're going to go back to scaling.
But it does feel like none of the teams are, I don't know, trust enough their fundamentals or their team play even to go for something else. What happened this game? What was the defining factors of this game, Eragon?
I think the biggest problem is that you have a team composition where you have to come online and you have to push a lead early, usually through stacking drakes, and generally what happens is a scaling composition has to be strong enough to contest the dragon by the time that rolls around. But what happens is the scaling composition in SK, they managed to secure all the, in Team Heretics, they managed to secure the early first 2 dragons. So what happens is you have a really delayed Dragon Soul win condition and your team composition just falls off before the scaling comes online.
And it just wasn't set up, you know, for Team Heretics. It's good at them for starting up that Drake. They catch SK being sloppy, the resets are late, they don't have any map control around the dragon, and because of that they're just able to start it. SK then suddenly just say, no, we can't let this happen. With the early game comp, we need to make the Drake happen, and then they just completely send it into an uncertain scenario. One flash from Flakked is enough to disrupt their CC, and suddenly that fight just goes wrong.
Sending it is the word, I feel, and the later stages of the game were even more messy, I feel like, on the side of SK, over-forcing fights, and also for me, it was individual mistakes, positioning, everything was off here.
I mean, I think Exakick just runs forward, doesn't see the Bard Q that's coming out, gets stunned on the Renekton as well, and just gets shuffled. Shout out to Zwyroo, that was a nutty, Azir ult to get all the way back there to bring him back in. But at this point, if you're making this kind of mistake, the team fight is just so difficult because of the natural front to back that Team Heretics have.
Hey, listen, I respect the aggression from Exakick, ghosting phase first, but also you gotta show up with mechanics if you want to play it like that. Not being aware of the Bard Q, the Renekton as well right before to actually stun you. Like, it's not a good moment, and your AD carry, which is the guy you've put all your exit in the early game, or at least that actually is online with the lead on the 2 items, suddenly just dying as the first guy in a team fight like this, like it just can't happen. The game is just over at that point. And you see it, like,
But at least, I mean, that's the thing. They had things, and I know we were watching the game backstage, and I was like, when it comes to SK, it's not over until the Nexus is over as well. And here, I want to look at game 3 with, I don't know, for me, it's kind of a coin flipper. Before coming live, I was like, who do you think is going to get third game here? It could be either team because none of them had showed solid enough foundations to let me know that they deserve to advance something next round here.
With the way that SK have been playing over the past few games, we know they can play scaling if they decide to. And I think that's what they're going to do. Like GB said, they're going to run it back with the scaling because the proactivity didn't work. And they have way more practice on it than TH does. So I definitely think that I'd go the way of SK.
What do we make of Azir, though? Because I know that it's been a key pick throughout the beginning of playoffs so far. Zwyroo was the one playing it here. On red side, though, which was kind of surprising. what is going to happen here. In the last game, we're going to have SK on the blue side, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, and I think with that, that's where the Azir comes into it as well, where it's like, oh, well, we know that they're going to ban ASOL. We can just first pick Azir ourselves. Like in the first draft, you first pick Rakan. I understand the priority for DOS on it. It's one of his comfort champion, but I also don't think the impact of that Rakan is as good as, for example, an Azir would be in that instance.
You know what the best plot twist would be? It's if now Team Heretics gets confidence and they try to run back the proactivity, and we just see El Clasico, they tend to lose versus scaling, right? So maybe we'll see dive from Team Heretics like we saw all of the regular season. Who knows?
It is the last game here for both teams. One of them is going to go on holidays until July. Sadly, it's going to be a really, really long time to stay on the bench and watch the rest of the LEC teams. Who's going to take this one and why? Who showed the best League of Legends here, or the most stable at least? It's going to be a flip, we know this, but which one is taking it?
I think SK today has actually shown best League of Legends throughout the entire series in terms of their proactivity and in terms of showing up. On paper, I still think Heretics should be having it, but I just haven't seen them show up. And I think with potentially SK going back to scaling, that's their comfort. That's where they're going to outplay Heretics.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think Team Heretics, to me, has been kind of disappointing in the past, in the playoffs games. I'm going to go to the side of SK as well if they draft the way we expect them to.
It is a shame, though, when you think of the way Team Heretics tried to rebuild. Remember,
it really is.
Lack of leadership, changing players. It was going well. They should be able to take it to the end here.
I mean, I hope so for them as well. Like, it's hard to play favorites in a scenario like this. Like, SK want to do better with the roster they've stuck with as well. Team Heretics, as you say, lots of changes coming through, but you can change all you want if you have the same result. What was the idea of it all in the end?
It has to come now for either of these teams facing eliminations. Casters, take it away for Game 3.
One final game to decide it all. And I think this is a tough spot to be. Right, your entire season culminates in this, and obviously you want it to be in a best of 5. Obviously you want the luxury of going to full 5 games of a single loss, not feeling like it's the end of your season. But here we are, boils down to a best of 1. Heard it on the desk. SK Gaming, blue side, probably for first pick Rakan. No, I'm kidding. It's probably Azir, I would assume, but maybe in a crazy twist of fate, we just ban both the Azir and the Aurelion Soul, and we go back to the meta of the regular season.
Orianna and Talia.
Oh, no. Don't.
Yeah.
Ari. Why is Ari? Because she's not as good. That's fine. But as you can hear from the funk, because we're cool, and we like what the kids like, so we have funk now.
It's what the Tic Tacs told us to get.
We're moments away from getting a jab. No, funk's actually fire. We're just going to, quickly drift into picks and bans. Kia, if you're listening, we could literally drift into picks and bans.
Cool.
Pitch for the caster.
That'd actually be sick.
Thinking about it. Professional driver, not me.
Do you pick
picks and
ban in the back of a drifting car?
Yes.
That'd be class.
Yes.
I'm well in
with the funk.
That'd be deadly.
All right. Wow. Okay. Complete shift here. Zeri was the problem, is what appears to be the read from both lineups. Okay, so Zeri's out.
is first picked.
But with Zeri gone, do you prioritize picking your AD carry? Because now there is a potential for an Azir Aurelion Soul trade, which we've already seen that SK Gaming are comfortable taking. They're not old enough to have dentures. I don't think it's fair to say gumming yet.
Yeah, that's more medic style at the moment. But I think coming into this, the problem is ASOL Maokai does give you a very strong 2v2. So that's where I'm kind of questioning, is it like if you go Azir and you go back towards taking like something like the Xayah here for Flakked in the bot lane, you third pick your jungler, I think you end up in a relatively okay spot where you can kind of see what the rest of the draft is looking like. Can you get pushed? Maybe even go for the Jinx, actually, to be honest, for Flakked here and say, we have hyperscaling, but we also have good pushing lanes, and maybe we can play off that into an invade if they answer back with the Aurelion Soul, but we'll have to see exactly what the game plan is going to be here. But I could see a Jinx angle here, honestly. It's not terrible. Yeah.
Not bad. Okay, bit of a run back on the scaling option here for Heretics. So, is it just some early Rakan prio? Okay.
That's not a
personal attack. It's not a personal attack. This is just what pro players play. This is so bold. We like it. We like it. I mean, this is betting on yourself, folks. Whenever anyone's like, believe in yourself, those people pick Lucian, Nami in elimination games. That said, if you start to lose on this duo, your game falls apart very quick. This is significantly harder to execute than a Zeri, than a Xayah, than anything else we've seen from either of these teams in the series. And Exakick and DOS have made it work before, but they've also messed it up before many, many times.
I will also say, if Trymbi's comfortable, the Milo value you get here is absolutely insane. You get the extra range, so you can start to push in, makes it very hard for the Lucian to have to trade effectively. Plus, then you got the ultimate for the Maokai as well.
Yes.
Like, Milo is so strong here for Heretics, so wouldn't be surprised to see that ban away, especially when you already got a lot of front line, and you can even add to that with, you already have a lot of CC, and you can add to that with Wunder on his rotation, getting the counter pick as well. So I'm curious what SK Gaming have in the tank here, because you still need to pick your mid laner, which is why we're seeing Heretics just ban them away.
Yeah, and they could have gone for another scaling option, right? Aphelios is still fine. That was a matchup we've seen consistently for quite a period of time, and now they're in a position where they've locked in the Lucian Nami. We would normally expect the Aurelion Soul here, but Team Heretics can just ban it away. SK Gaming going to limit some of the topside options again, trying to set up for a relatively comfortable matchup for Irrelevant. I am shocked. I'm going to be honest. I think that I've obviously said this many times. If you haven't watched Euphoria, maybe you haven't heard this rant, but like in Europe, this is one of the hardest duos to execute. And in an elimination game, to bet so much on your own execution when it has failed so many times on stage is a crazy proposition.
I think you just have to kind of bite the bullet here as SK and go full all in on the early stages.
Yeah.
I think, look, Taliyah, not quite the all in on the early stage, but definitely you want to have that roamy mid laner from the mid lane, give Irrelevant the Renekton in the top lane, and just go, hey, we're going to play for side lanes. I think Irrelevant did a great job in the Renekton in game 1 against Wunder, and he should be in a decent spot here as well, unless Wunder wants to go back to something like the Laure, where you can have that CC that we wanted and a good matchup. But yeah, there's the Milo that we talked about. I think this, at the Thresh, seems bizarre to me. Milo was so much better in this scenario.
Yeah, I think just trying to take away the comfort from Trymbi, and obviously the Lantern offers a lot of safety for any pick potential. This has been a consistent hover of the series, so I doubt we will see the Kai'Sa. Yone Rumble, screw it. Just do something crazy. Give me winning lanes. SK, you can't take your foot off the gas now. You've drafted for early game bot side. You need to go full force.
Maybe even Orianna doesn't really work either. I think you need the Taliyah here. You've got a ton of point and click CC. Just try and lock someone up, flick back with the Taliyah. You've got not a huge amount of forward momentum coming through on but I still think you've just got so much setup for the Taliyah. It's still going to work out great.
This mid pick is going to be big. I think Taliyah makes sense. It doesn't have quite the amount of counter interactions that they would normally want, and now they've opted for a slightly different strategy. So you have relatively strong pick topside. You have team fight kind of jungler with good setup in the Maokai, and now you have a scaling option with a lot of poke in mid lane. Paired with culling in mid game from Lucian, this will be good.
Oh no!
But that would be hard. I mean, it's kind of tough against a Lucian, to land that reliably. So instead, it seems like once again, Wunder just going to take the more conservative option. But K'Sante, a champion who can, just take one of these carries out of the fight in late game fights, especially paired alongside a Sejuani, and just ruin the entirety of SK Gaming's composition.
A huge amount of what SK Gaming are going to try and do is look for poke with culling and with rockets and try and find their way into a fight that way, controlling mid space, immediately moving that into river, and then contesting as you start to come in. So Wunder taking the K'Sante gives the opportunity to have someone who can tank up a lot of that initial damage, and also then gives you the opportunity to have someone who can take the space that you need coming into river. Being able to tank up a Maokai ultimate, being able to tank up a Renekton stun, that kind of stuff that is going to cause some issues for Heretics. But by God, if SK ever fall behind, this is doomed. Heretics have so much scaling, so much anti-CC with the Milo, with the long range they can play at, with both having the Jinx and the Azir to try and be enabled by something like an Ardent Sensor here for the Milo. It's disgusting how good the late game is for Heretics.
I don't want to say it's effortless, but it is definitely easier to execute, bar none. The Jinx relatively immobile. There's a world where Corki gets far enough ahead or has a package or has an angle where Renekton can get on the backside. Like, there's ways. But the ways that Team Heretics win this game are much, much simpler and much more inevitable. SK need to play flawlessly. They need to execute at a level that we have not reliably seen from them this entire year to make sure this one works. It's a tall task. And again, just a recap, obviously, this has worked for SK before, especially Renekton top side, Lucian Nami bottom side. When it worked for them previously in Winter, it was irrelevant, tanking ganks, absorbing pressure, and allowing Exakick and DOS to run free bot lane, to completely take over with the support of Isma. This time, however, I imagine the top lane will once again be left as an island, and bot side will be the focus for both teams, more or less. Something we'll have to track. Zwyroo as well, taking the Hail of Blades for the early lane phase, wants to trade more aggressively with Nisqy. We have first strike for both Corki and Lucian, so again, SK, the art of the deal. they like their money. Diamond hands, glass jaw. Bit of a rough combo, but we'll see if they can make this one work.
The money ball hasn't paid out quite yet for them, but we'll have to see if it can. Maybe as Nisqy. Are you taking decent trade in the early stages? We see this quite a bit with the Corki Azir matchup, where you will take Gatling Gun in the early stages, guarantees you push in that matchup from the level 1, because you can end up using the Gatling Gun to both poke Zwyroo and also push the wave at the same time. So
yeah,
I think this is where, again, maybe with that early vision control down, they can look for an invade off of Nisqy having push mid and Exakick and DOS trying to get push boss. But I like that Jankos started on top side, because Flakked and Trymbi, I didn't quite see if Trymbi took the W level 1, but if he did, you're able to get good push here and can out-trade DOS and Exakick, but it looks like they aren't quite comfortable enough to go for that.
He took the E for the mid lane trade, so he's going to use that there to at least mitigate some of the poke coming out from DOS. Obviously, Nami, very annoying in lane. The ebb and flow, doing a lot of work in terms of the healing and damage. One of the strongest, I think, level 1 abilities for short trades. But good shields coming in from Trymbi. Again, we expect Team Heretics to be on the back foot here. They get a few more levels under their belt. They have a few more tools to fight back, but it's the same story for Lucian and Nami, really. Level 3, important for both sides. Is Zwyroo doing well in the early trades, courtesy of Hail of Blades, I think. You know, making a lot of those short trades easier, because normally Gatling Gun, Phosphorus Bomb put Corki in a pretty advantageous position for the first few levels.
And he's trading hyper aggressive with this health bar, because he wants to make sure that they can't invade onto the bot side. Isma, you can already see the pings going down onto Jankos' blue buff. He's like, look, we got push on bot, can we try and make a play onto it? But with Zwyroo playing hyper aggressive on the mid wave, makes it very difficult for Jankos to actually, for Isma to actually get in and get onto Jankos' jungle.
Jankos now coming to just lay down a little bit of vision. Thought he might push in for a bit more, but there are no camps there. And the vision is going to fall away on the blue buff. So approximate information for the side of SK as to where Jankos is, but nothing precise. And Zwyroo just continuing to keep the pressure up here in the mid lane.
Yeah, the wave's been crashed though, and you can imagine for SK, it's like, look, let's be real. Jankos is going to full clear, take a crab, reset, spend his gold, come back out to the top side of the map, and go from there, right? So I think even though you don't know where Jankos is exactly, you can already more or less tell where he is. And Exakick and DOS already making sure that at least the wave is bouncing back out with this single minion going to start that work for them. So Isma just going to do similar to what Jankos did, hop in here, hop down a ward, and spot out where Jankos is going to come back in onto his top side of the map.
Yeah, and thus far, relatively quiet early game. Both top laners, level 4. Wunder ticks over a little bit early, but shouldn't mount to too much. This wave is starting to stack. Of course, with Jankos on the bottom side, there's not much of a play to be made. Wunder can push this all the way, and maybe he can get a reliable recall, but you can see Irrelevant quick to make sure that he can at least get a positive trade with the big wave there.
And GB did warn us that we'd probably need to get our, you know, our bedtime stories out and get our water bottles and stuff, because let's be real, if you're looking at Heretics, it is hyper scaling. They don't really need to get anything done in the early stages. And for SK, yes, you can play it towards sides, but with not having a Talia, it makes it actually a little bit difficult for Nisqy to really have big effects on the side lanes, even if he does get mid control. So I think it's more reliant on Isma solo to make those plays. And at the moment, Heretics have all the information that they need, because they end up, I believe, spotting Isma as they move back down towards the spot side on that ward that was up, and Jankos getting control of that bot side as well. It means that with vision, you're totally fine here for Heretics.
X-Kick dashing forward.
No mana.
But the mana trade and the health trade, still good for the side of Team Heretics.
I think they were trying to set up for Isma to come in, so even though he didn't have mana, it was, hey, maybe we can try and get the health bar and Flakked low. Level up gives him a little bit more back as well. Immediate cleanse from Flakked burnt. So nice actually from SK to try and make that play happen. And if Isma had actually managed to sneak past some of the vision that Heretics had established, that could have been a play that set up for Flakked on that bottom side.
Yeah. Good to take multiple trades back-to-back. Obviously, Milo notoriously super long cooldowns early on. So if you can force those windows back-to-back and you can come in with that big cooldown advantage, then you finally start to see that damage stick when it comes to the short trades. Kerchase Shard coming in for Exakick on the first back alongside a longsword. We'll see what Flakked gets when he finally does recall. He will be recalling with a bit more gold, but only by about 2 creeps, so shouldn't amount to too much. Plus, Exakick, of course, had the luxury of the first strike, giving him a bit of extra early gold. But boots 2 for Flakked makes a lot of sense. Maybe less power in the trades, but easier to get out of the ones that do not favor you.
Yeah, Exakick going to be able to collect this wave. He's going to start to slowly push out, so there is an opportunity off of Isma clearing out his top side to immediately go for Dragon. They did get 2 of the grubs on that top side, forcing Jankos away from it. So again, SK, we've seen this already. They get decent control in the early stages. It's just a case of trying to clean up when it gets to that mid game. And when we get to the mid game, these games have been bangers. There's been so much fighting, so much back and forth as everyone tries to find some foothold into the game to get that advantage that they need. But for SK, it's a little bit smaller of a foothold. You need to get it early, or else Heretics are just going to get into a position where you just cannot fight them.
Yeah, scaling's always tricky. Of course, there's always going to be a certain degree of execution, but what we've seen is the teams who lower the burden of execution are generally more favored. Dash back from Exakick. Push forward from Zwyroo. Does he want to trade flashes here? He already gets Exakick. That's going to be first blood. The Lucian put behind. The gold lead disappearing in the blink of an eye. Yes, Nisqy gets prio mid, but Team Heretics more than happy with the trade.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised Exakick didn't flash. DOS flashed, understood. The understood of the assignment was, hey, don't let Zwyroo knock us back. Yes, we'll burn flashes and maybe we'll be vulnerable later, but saving it for Dragon isn't really a thing either. So that's just, I just love to find out what Exakick was thinking there.
Deep sigh, big sigh. I mean, okay, so the thing is, when you hit level 6 with Culling, you can absolutely destroy Flakked in an all-in. So maybe he's like, this is the point where I can regain control. Flashing here, yes, doesn't give away gold, but maybe that he feels like there is another window of opportunity that he absolutely has to capitalize on to get a substantial lead.
I think it's also, we've seen Exakick just try to hands check Heretics in a lot of situations, like last game in the Xayah, where he's like, maybe I can ult away from Jankos as he goes in. Maybe here he was like, hey, Zwyroo goes in with a flash, I'll flash in return, and wasn't quite fast enough with the trigger finger, but means it is a kill. Going across over to the Azir, which is great. Blasting one now pick up for him. Good control over the mid lane. SK will be able to get the Dragon for themselves, which isn't too surprising based on the fact they have this Lucian Nami still in the bot lane. But will give a bit of time for Zwyroo to get into a position where he can hit those 2 items and start to take over in these next Dragon fights.
No. Have you ever read Brandon Sanderson?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the Sanderlanche scheme. You know what I'm talking about? Have you ever heard that phrase? He does this thing where like every character is like giga depressed and miserable until like this one moment in the book where they start fighting, and then they just keep fighting for 100 pages and you can't stop reading. That's what this game is going to feel like, Rob. We're just going to sit here. We're building tragic backstories, character development. Oh, you know, maybe Jinx is really strong on one item. Even if she's losing now, we're kind of setting it all up, and then bam.
Yeah, then Zwyroo just downs a bunch of medals and he's able to float in the air.
Fly around. Yeah, okay, look,
yeah.
like it doesn't 100% line up. You know, he's not just going to like reach up to the sky and like lightning power is going to fill him up. Zeri's not in this game. I don't really know what how Jinx has character development in the context of the game. Like, maybe the voices have less influence, more influence. Who knows? But on the top side, Irrelevant trying to survive here on a bit of an over-aggressive dive. The healing is there. But it's not enough. Wunder grabs that kill. Fantastic punish for Team Heretics. Sanderlanche coming a little sooner than expected.
Yeah, definitely going to be smart about that one. It's unfortunate for Irrelevant. I think he's had a great series thus far, has been controlling Wunder, but unfortunately takes that step too far forward, and having Jankos there to support him means they're able to turn and burn. Heretics as well, able to control the bot side as well. Look, you've got a plate on the bot lane, but Flakked going to be relatively simple to him to clear out most of these waves. So unless you bring Isma down here, you just can't really force Flakked and Trymbi off the turret.
Yeah. And this is an easy itemization game for Wunder too. Yes, Corki does magic damage, but things like Ninja Tabby, work on all those magic damage auto attacks. If he goes crit, which he probably won't, hasn't been a Corki build for quite some time. You can also build Randuins and still get value, despite the fact that Corki is obviously going to be doing primarily magic damage. So it's a good time to be a Cassante in the context of this game. And already some grubs getting picked up, 3 for SK. At the very least, they're keeping the objectives in their favor. A Dragon, 4, and now 5 grubs. If they ever do get advantage, if they ever do take a fight, they will be that much faster to take objectives. But I think for Team Heretics, again, you're sitting pretty, you're sitting comfy, and as long as you don't lose sight of the fact that you scale better around the 1 item mark when SK can really start to try to bully their way into some of these fights, you're doing pretty well.
And for Winter to repeat, that's what has to happen. SK beat Heretics at that stage, and honestly, our bracket has turned out almost the exact same as we saw in Winter. Winner here will go up against Fnatic, which is exact same position that they were in last time after losing to G2. So SK going to see if they can try and find that once more. But for Heretics, it is trying to be the one team so far that has broken the cycle from Winter.
Yeah. And there's already that pressure on their shoulders without the fact that the bracket is exactly the same, right? You really want to be able to prove yourself, especially for Zwyroo in the mid lane. Had a great performance in the previous game. It wasn't just him. Trymbi, obviously, some really great stuns onto Exakick, some good moments all around. But it was kind of his heroic plays that felt like they shifted the game back in the favor of Team Heretics, alongside Flakked. Now see if they can replicate that in the final game, if they can just keep that discipline. But for SK, I mean, again, you picked a really, I think, bold composition, a riskier composition. And it feels to me like a bet like, hey, we're either going to be good enough to play this way, to dominate and to win, or we're going to go home. And it's a big flip. It's a risky bet, but if it pays off, they'll look much better coming into the next round of play. Hopefully.
Zwyroo just needs to back on up here. They know that Maokai's in this bot side jungle. He might fall to the prey here. Isma still standing there. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I love this vision control that's been set up here in this bottom side by SK. They actually had another one that was just in this little warp rush here as well. So they're able to spot it pretty much at all points in time when Isma was coming down to the spot side. So really nice job by Jankos to track where Isma is. And you know SK really want to try and play down towards the spot side. Exakick and DOS are the people you need to get rolling. So as long as you keep control over that side, you're in a great spot. Now with Dragon in 50 seconds as well, you already have the predetermined vision.
Well,
maybe even looking for a play on the bot lane with, at least for the moment, Jankos over there.
And you highlight the vision for the side of Team Heretics, spotting out Isma, but it's the same story. Both teams are playing for the exact same point on the map. Culling comes in for Flakked. A lot of cooldowns used there. That is the ulti out from Trymbi. But it's the Culling. It's the ulti from DOS as well as his flash. So overall, Team Heretics happy with that one. And the vision was there in the brush as well, so I think just a bit over-eager from the side of SK.
Yeah, the Jankos came through lane, so they didn't spot him actually walk through the jungle. And also, they didn't see any of the camps were up in that bot, so they thought they were fine, but Exakick.
Locked up 1-2, looking for 3 and 4. Ultra Mega Fire Kick, a bit of extra damage coming in for Flakked. Rocket. Nice sidestep from Exakick. Under the gun. Still manages to walk away, but again, he's the one who's supposed to be taking over the lane. Flakked doesn't even have a completed item, and he's getting pushed out of lane.
Package for Corki, though. Nisqy starting to make his way in here. Heretics have great position. They only burned Flakked's ultimate, so can still turn and burn onto Isma if they want to.
Have to be careful, though. Early package is so impactful, and in goes Nisqy. He wants to make the play, but Spyro's already dashed out to safety. Double root onto Flakked and Trymbi, but there's no follow-up damage. Jankos now in trouble. Exakick trying to dash away, but the boar's got him locked down. The cleanse is good, though. Lucian on the edge, trying to escape. Isma on the way in. It's one kill back for Exakick, but now the TP coming in. Flakked's already got the reset. He's looking to take down Isma as well. Yes, Exakick might walk away, but SK have lost the fight.
Irrelevant will get some plates on top side, but Heretics get the gold they need. They get the control around Dragon. And SK overforced their hand. They didn't have the control anymore with Exakick having given up his health bar on bot side, but they still try to fight, and Heretics come out on top.
1 kill to 4. The score now. Again, they've got the 5 grubs. It means Irrelevant is going to get more and more plates, and he's keeping the gold close. The only members with gold leads over their respective opponent, of course, Irrelevant and Isma.
And Nisqy does a good job of trying to separate the fight, but everyone in Heretics gets the opposite side apart from Jankos. And then SK spends so much time trying to deal with him that Flakked is able to just deal with the rest of the fight in River. Yes, Jankos fights down Exakick, but good separation from Zwyroo again. Trymbi, the main focus, manages to dodge away from the rockets from Nisqy. And Flakked's untouched. Both him and Azir being really well enabled in this fight.
Yeah, and I think a bit of frustration there from Nisqy. You can see he just flashed forward to blind rocket the brush. Not sure if the control ward was there at the time, so might have seen a bit more. But Nisqy now, no package, still sitting on the opposite side of the wall. Team Heretics weren't able to grab the Drake before, are looking to grab it now.
Relevant has TP top, but Heretics just going to zone off as a result. And honestly, big wins for Heretics. If you can stop these dragons from being stacked by SK, you don't have to try and fight early.
We're hoping that the Renekton can make the difference here. Demolish proc, 5 stacks on the grubs. Will grab this tower, first tower of the game to SK, and again, the gold just about dead even. It's only when we look at the relative compositional strengths as we get later in the game that we start to get concerned for the side of SK, but Corki's no slouch when it comes to scaling, and that poke can be problematic for the side of Team Heretics. But I think the big problem here is in the support position, you highlighted it. The Thresh could have been there. SK took it away. They did not want to deal with it. But this Milio just outscales as we get later, right? The range advantage of the shields, the reliability of the cleanse to mitigate so many of the engage options for SK makes this so hard to play out.
And it's just going to be like Flakked able to space out Exakick so many opportunities. Even Nisqy as well, when he gets a chance. You've got really strong front line. It's hard to try and fight. Jankos will spot out the Rip Tower. It's got to be taken. This could give a moment for SK to try and get control over this early stages though. They've hit those spikes that we were talking about with those singular items. So now with the Rift Herald, they can try and push down to bot side with Irrelevant, rotate that pressure in towards mid lane, try and snowball this game into a position where Heretics have to fight from their own base, have to fight from behind their own tier 2s. And maybe that's where you have a moment. But you need to try and turn up that to 100 at this stage. You need to put that pressure on.
And that's the thing. The gold is close. Items, you've got slight leads in terms of purchased items, obviously, right now. Flakked will back and probably even things up. But there's a window here. There's an opportunity for SK to accelerate the pace of this game, for them to push their strength, the individual champions in the early to mid game. But they're the ones who have to play aggressive, who have to force the play. And on the opposite side for Team Heretics, they're in a relatively comfortable position of just needing to be the one who is more disciplined. Not take the risky fights, not take the bold bets. Absorb the pressure, walk away, and not give anything up.
Heretics all in and on this top side. SK gonna try and match.
Irrelevant. All of SK on the way. Team Heretics just back away. I think it's a good call. Diving the Renekton is always a bold proposition. When he's got backup there as well, it can turn south really quick.
It's really difficult for SK to try and get control over the game at the minute. Usually when you have a Lucian and a Maokai, it's very easy for you to say, hey, we're going to play hyper-aggressive on mid-wave, try and CC down Flakked, and then set up for culling and plays and get control over mid-wave to then open up the map, maybe even playing towards the enemy jungle. Not really an option when you have Milo and Jinx on the opposite side. Jinx very good at clearing out these waves thanks to her rockets. Trymbi adding the extra little bit of range makes it very difficult for Isma to find answers to that push in mid lane unless he invests an ultimate, a flash, a W, a huge amount to try and get Flakked. And then because you don't have control as much over that mid lane, it makes it easier for Heretics to push out bot, to push out top and slow down the pace of the game for SK. You can see SK get some chip damage, but they need to try and turn this into something, and bot seems to be the way forward with the minor amount of priority they got in mid. But Wunder is just, with Iceborne Gauntlet, they have to clear out the wave, and now you just lose that priority over mid.
And that's so hard for them to dive Wunder, or to put any pressure on Wunder, really. Isma, immediate flash out, gets the phase rush proc and just zooms out to safety. Exakick gonna clear midway, but Team Heretics got pressure first, which means they get to set up their vision line first. Zwyroo has TP'd.
That's pretty big. The fact that you have that TP advantage now, they can send Nisqy to the top side, draw Zwyroo up there, and then maybe look for a TP play on the opposite side. Nisqy might need to burn it early though, as Heretics already in position for this bot side tower. Exakick had gone for the resets, so Heretics just coming off the back of their own resets, able to pick up the turret for themselves. Rift Herald still can be used mid, but you're kind of running low on time here, lads.
Jinx Rocket hoping to cancel the base. Oh, that's big. Nisqy so far behind the clock now. Herald gonna get used mid lane. Nisqy won't really be here in time unless he TPs though to ensure that it hits the tower and gets the damage done.
It'll get us. It'll take tower. It's good.
Yeah. And he's gonna TP actually, just to back up. Are they hoping to get the double push here with the Herald? The answer is yes. Obviously with 5 grub buff, could be big. Take it back.
Going to bot side.
They're gonna glide. I asked for drifting music and draft. Maybe we get a little bit more in game.
Nice! Oh!
Okay, well, half credit, but they're not going to follow up to take the tower.
SK going to give up position on Dragon as well. Corki resetting to go towards topside. Nisqy just kind of TP'd for nada on the mid lane. And Heretics are going to be able to fight this.
Yep, 3 members committed to the mid lane.
It's got package
Wunder
now,
looking
so
to roam.
we'll be back out fast.
Yeah, the package important to note. Obviously the extra movement speed. The impact it can have in team fights. But Flakked has all sums up and available. You've got Trymbi there to pocket heal you, or the Azir. Zwyroo as well. 2 items. Death cap completed before this fight is big. And I don't know if package beats a death cap. Perfect placement maybe, as Exakick starts to get a little bit of poke down, but it's on to Wunder.
It's the poke that needs to beat the death cap. Try and shoot it off his head, because if you can land this damage, it becomes very hard to stick around.
Decent damage on now onto Zwyroo, but Nisqy right into the back line. They just light him up. Air traffic control not pleased about that one. Exakick now dashing. He's desperate to try to take this play back, but Wunder is damn strong, unstoppable forward. SK are crumbling under the pressure. Irrelevant was not there at the start of the play, and he's going to get deleted on the back half of it. It's an easy Baron call for Team Heretics if they want it. But for now, they'll settle for the mid lane tier 1.
It's Baron. Heretics are going to get Baron. There's just nothing. I don't know what happened to SK there. Nisqy, you had the poke that was coming down. They tried to unload with Exakick coming through here on towards Flakked while they got the flank position here to open with Culling and get the damage down. But Nisqy took that as the go button. And it means the Heretics immediately turn on to everyone that's in the backline. You got the Cozy Campfire healing them back up. The Milo ult as well being used to just keep everyone topped up. And there's so much lockdown that's there immediately. Exakick tries to salvage the play, takes way too many steps forward again. And Heretics happy to take that fight.
Heretics disciplined, and you can see the contrast between the games before on Trymbi's face and the game now. Nisqy frustrated. Team Heretics well played, but also that fight was gift wrapped. That was not good coordination from SK, and they need to dig deep and, you know, find a miracle, frankly. Need to make sure the next fight is flawless, because it doesn't get easier. Again, 4K gold lead, another Drake gonna go over. This is, the stacking was already delayed because of the previous Drake play. It's only further behind, which you would have, you know, hoped for with an Ocean Soul. And Team Heretics now likely to break down a couple of tier 2s. Their siege is excellent. The wave clear on the side of SK is not fantastic, and you can see the gold presented by Santander. The top side is all Team Heretics.
This game feels very over for SK. We said if they fall behind, it's kind of doomed. And now towers are falling. Baron buff is going to be massive. They're going to try and fight this.
Isma fishing for the pick. Coling not going to do much of anything. Stun on the Exakick, immediate cleanse out. Team Heretics just absorb the engage and walk away. This is the power of their composition now that they're out of the early mid game.
And Wunder is still in the mid wave. 4 versus 5, they're happy to absorb and push back. Now you don't have the range to really fight against Heretics, and they're happy to push on in. Wunder gonna get mid, or at least mid lane tower started, as Irrelevant will move in to support them. But now Heretics get to push in boss, can rotate to Wunder if they want to, but the Baron creeps are doing enough.
Yeah, Wunder happy to just usher that wave in. Does take out the cannon minion, so maybe, nope, does go down. And now the gold lead starts to feel, you know, the scaling wasn't enough. Now the gold lead also starts to feel insurmountable.
It's just the items. You're going to start to look at third items coming through across the board. Flakked working up towards the Vampiric Scepter, so Bloodthirster, making sure that, hey, if Exakick does manage to get a ton of culling damage off me, or Nisqy gets a big shot at me, I'm just going to be able to heal it back up. Doesn't really matter. Not going to be able to make that difference in the game. So SK now need to hope Heretics make a mistake. Heretics overextend and they find some way back into it, but zero vision to understand if they have that moment means that SK don't want to bite, and Heretics group, and they'll start to continue this Baron buff. They've one more creep wave that maybe they can work off of, but with 20 seconds left on the Red Bull Baron power play, I don't think they'll be able to make it happen.
And I think this is a situation where we've seen SK, you know, make big mistakes with a lead like Team Heretics have. Team Heretics have also made it as well. But you know when the pressure is on, Wunder's already pushing mid. You know when the pressure is on, like 4 out of 5 members of this team have won a championship in LEC. When the stakes are high, these guys do not mess around. Like, they are not risking anything. Jankos walking up, he gets the tower, the culling now comes out, Wunder on the flank. Isma now getting poked away out, but Team Heretics just need to back off. Should just settle for the tier 2. Maybe I Astral Curse them. Maybe they do get over eager. But this is the kind of discipline that you want to see from a team full of so many veterans.
But what shocked me was that when we look back to the last game, it wasn't the veterans, it was Zwyroo who stepped up and had that big play. When you look at the moments that have been in this game, Zwyroo has had some great moments on the Azir as well. We said, hey, look, ban the Nico, it's been his best champ. Well, Azir's back, lads. He looks great on this pick as well. So, honestly, Heretics hasn't been the best of series, but at least you can see the pieces starting to come back together, and I think a win here would rebuild a lot of that confidence that I felt like has been missing for even the start of this series and the last.
And I think especially when you look at the latest addition in Trymbi and in Zwyroo. Zwyroo a rookie, and Trymbi notoriously a guy, again, who wears his heart on his sleeves. Like, we saw it when Rogue won the championship. They talked about it. They went to Malmo, they got to breathe a sigh of relief, and suddenly the vibe was good, and they played, you know, for one shining day like absolute gods. And I think Trymbi is that guy where when the mood is good, he steps up, and when it starts to crumble, he feels it really personally, and it affects his performance. And I think that this kind of confidence coming into your next series, if Team Heretics are able to win here, would be massive for him and massive for the team overall.
And you're going to need it. A game against Fnatic is nothing to sniff at. Yes, G2 aimed to beat them 2-0 yesterday, but this is still an incredibly strong team in the LEC. So Heretics going to need to be firing on all cylinders if they hope to beat it. And a lot of it going to be a case of, hey, can Jankos match up to Raz, or can Zwyroo once more prove himself against Humanoid, who's honestly the best Azir we have in the league. So yeah. Still a lot of questions towards Heretics. And we're going to have to wait and see what the answers are going to be.
And of course, they're not out of this game yet. But we're waiting, as are the SK fans, to see this, the amount of defense to make the moment happen, you know? To find that opportunity to bring things back. But again, slow, controlled, disciplined. There's no reason for Team Heretics to risk anything. The later we go, honestly, I mean, right now they have such a massive lead. Probably the later we go, they're not going to increase their odds more than they are now, but it still favors them heavily.
Heretics are all just sitting around with British accents, drinking tea, saying, "Oh, fine fellow, would you like another item with that?" And then they just plonk in the biscuit down beside the tea. It's like, yeah, I'll have another one.
Oh, yes.
That's all it is.
A defensive item, you say? A shield, immortal shield? Oh, yes.
That Cane of Crooker does look nice. I think I'll have one myself.
Double Cane of Crooker, you say? On the opposite side, it's like Lord Dominic's. They know. You got to be able to kill everything. You got to be able to kill a tank, and this is frustrating for Exakick. I think it's obviously it's the right choice for itemization, but you would love to have one of the crit amplifier items. Being forced for a quick detour here just to make sure that you can still contend with the tanky stats on the side of Team Heretics. Team Heretics looking to establish control on the bot side. SK jungle taking away the red buff as Wunder does not take damage, but does continue to step forward. Just looking to solo bolo the enemy AD carry, dashing back into the safety of his team as Exakick is picked off. And that might be the final nail in the coffin. That might be the death knell. SK about to be freed from this mortal coil, freed from the Spring Split. Team Heretics finished top 8 in the last split. They made controversial changes, but on the back of Zwyroo in Game 2, an incredible team play in Game 3. They are set to move on to the next stage. Nisqy trying to do something, but he's too far behind. And today belongs to Team Heretics.
An incredible performance from Team Heretics and a great performance from that man on your screen. Zwyroo was an absolute monster on the Azir. Manhandling so many different members of SK, but at the end of the day, SK just could not match up in the team fights. Heretics were so clean when it came to it.
Yeah. And SK put the gauntlet down for themselves in that final game. And they did not have what it took to execute on the composition they put together for themselves. But again, victory to Heretics, 7th-8 in the previous season. They came in close to 1st in the regular season. Now we'll move on further. Hope to get even further than top 6 where they stand now. Vote for your key player of the series at LEC on X, Wunder, Zwyroo, or Flakked. All great options.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, it was a heroic performance from across the board that set them here. Heretics will overcome their performance from last split, but now have to try and overcome Fnatic. And honestly, it's going to have to be a case of significantly cleaner early games if they want to do it, but we're going to toss it to a quick break with an interview from Flakked and Trymbi before our second series of Giant X versus MDK.
Red Bull gives you wings.